Featuring Mr. Stephen Rennselaer, wealthy cousin of Margarita Schuyler. Let's do this.
How does a young dame, long-named daughter of a native sympathizer, size up a dangerous situation that relies on her eyes and her heroism flowing from the love for her siblings who were pint-sized prizes? Margarita, Peggy, Schuyler, Van Rennselaer. It's a mouthful for sure, but she don't care. Call me Peggy, she tell those she rarely got to meet, living in the shadow of her sisters. Poor Marguerite, middle child in a long list, totaling 15. Only 8 would make it through, 7 death would keep. Men found her charming, pretty, witty, and a mystery. A shame that her sisters and not her went down in history. But that's how it goes, they were tied to a man who accomplished the unthinkable in his lifespan. A faithful son, unfaithful husband who nothing seemed to bother when making his way toward being a founding father.
Hamilton, my name is Alexander.
Now hold up. Let's not get distracted. This story's about me, Miss Peggy, not the famous interactions with the man I viewed platonically. Ironically, a man I never loved but also never saw as lesser as demonically. Sardonically. My life was not as long as it should have been or could have been, facing death's door with only Alexander Hamilton, one son who made it to a daughter to survive me.
I really should have been there to see you off,
but I was always telling him regret gets you nowhere. Living life right now is the only thing that matters, dear.
Wishing things would change only sets into motion the never-ending cycle of unvetted emotion.
I'm Peggy.
Or Peg, Margaret, Maggie, or Meg.
I'm Peggy.
Giving off sparks while living in a powder keg.
I'm Peggy.
For her love she made me beg.
I'm Peggy.
She impressed me on the reg.
I'm Peggy.
She grabbed enemies right by the collar.
I'm Peggy.
When her family was at stake, she became a
I'm
brawler.
Peggy.
She made the Schuyler sisters stand a bit taller,
I'm Peggy.
exuding confidence that made her a baller.
Margarita, Peggy, Schuyler, Van Rennselaer.
My Peggy!
Or Meg for short.
Before Peggy grew into the woman she would be, she found herself confronted nearly constantly. Her sisters were her blood and her family, but they often teased her relentlessly. She became quite reserved, digging into her books. Her sisters read too, but were more into their looks. Peggy found herself in a constant state of hurt and became much more of an introvert. Check it out.
Elizabeth, hurry up.
I'm coming.
We don't want to miss it. Miss what?
That's none of your beeswax, Peg. Go back to whatever book you were reading. I'm sure it's really interesting.
Well, actually, it's a... Regardless, I can play it cool with you guys, really.
Peg, you will never be as cool as us, right, Elle?
Right, Angel?
The Schuyler sisters.
Later, Peglet.
I thought sisters were supposed to be close. Secrets and giggles and soft whispered words out of my earshot, completely unheard. I try anyway 'cause I'm not deterred, but they push me away. Angelica, graceful and beautiful too. Eliza is funny and boys call her cute, and I watch them pass as they tell me adieu in their own cruel sister way. No matter how much I take in from reading, no matter how much I think I deserve to not feel like I'm always impeding on them. Maybe I'm just too reserved. Left behind, I always feel left behind. They have me pegged as a child and refuse to see more. Why am I so real? far is love?
Peggy, we have thought about it and we have decided to let you come with us.
Really?
Yes, but first, put on this blindfold.
Okay.
All right now, step right this way.
Where are we going?
Don't worry about that. We have a surprise for you, so just wait here a minute.
All right. Angelica? Eliza? Guys?
Peggy, I just saw your sisters run by laughing. Did they hurt you?
Hi, Stephen. No, they were just being themselves.
No, I told them to stop picking on you. You're a sweet girl, Peg. You don't deserve the way they treat you.
It's okay, really. I'm not that fun to be around. I prefer my books over people anyway.
Even over me?
Well, maybe not over you, Stephen.
Leave it behind. Leave all of these feelings behind. You've got a friend in me. You'll always be here in my mind. Leave it behind, and in a new friend you'll find someone who's there for you and can care for you all of the time. Here, let me help you put this back together. I can't believe they ripped your book.
Yeah, well, thanks, Stephen, for being there for me.
I'll always be there for you, Peg.
It would be a few years of just us ladies, but inevitably our parents had more babies. All three of our brothers born subsequently into the Schuyler family.
They were rowdy and rude, obnoxious and lewd, but a rather fun addition, I suppose. Yet Jonathan, Phillip, and Rennselaer Schuyler were 18th century basic bros.
Jonathan.
Phillip.
And Rennselaer,
The Schuyler brothers.
Jerks.
If you're a Schuyler brother in this century, life's about as good as it could possibly be. Our wealth makes it easy to be fancy and free. Our ranking the bourgeoisie. We're not that into politics, don't really like the books, but we like a pretty lady if we like the way she looks. We'll ask if we can charm her with our catchy hooks, then unhook the claps that hide all her crannies and nooks.
We gamble our money on skittles and dice. We dabble in every imaginable vice. Cockfighting, well sure, we'll watch it go down. Bull baiting, horse racing, whatever's in town. One thing's for sure, that we'll never know just what it's like to be a Joe Schmo. I imagine, though, that it would probably blow to live life on the bottomless post.
We love our fancy coats and clay pipe
And what about the plight of the poor?
multiple carriages and other fine rich folks?
Who the North will eventually be fighting for?
We don't mean to gloat about our bank
Oh no, oh so humble.
multiple marriages and some property in Roanoke.
I'm sure that won't be a bungle.
See, our cousins made a life renting land to those in New York who otherwise would be disposed of if they didn't have a man like Stephen to loan his land second-hand to these would-be owners. He even sacrifices money when he drops the monthly rent to in exchange for some crops. He will never understand the way to rule man the way that we can with us working our
Getting
land.
under petticoats.
Bad note.
Fine rich folks.
Take note.
Clay pipe smokes.
Spend.
We may have our insecurities behind large monetary
free outstanding.
Alright, news that was special, though I'm failing to see how this added any substance to Peggy's story. You wanna hear my takeaway since this is the breakaway? Y'all don't have a clue what it's like to view the world outside of green-tinted glasses. Although I suppose it's too much to ask from a trio of asses. So boys, go ahead and raise your glasses to a wealth you didn't even earn. You'll never ever learn what class is.
Few years were passed, with nuptials and mass. The Schuyler sisters with child, well, except Peggy. She had yet to marry, as she attempted to bury the feelings that she'll carry for her cousin Stephen.
The Schuylers met every summer, this time without their newcomer, who at the time was Alexander Hamilton. But little did Peggy know how this faithful night would show how important her actions really were to them.
Look, I had one shot, one opportunity to seize my sister from the hands of captors. One moment. Do you think I captured it? Or just let it slip? Yo. Just like my sisters, I have both intelligence and wits, but also a slamming body and a great pair of titillating non-fixed. Mr. Lin-Manuel Miranda, my rhymes can transfix when I have more of them than just 6. So find out how I got my licks and some Tories who are fixing to get my father nixed. Those dicks.
It was a long, warm night, my Alexander nowhere in sight.
Yeah, yada yada, all they did was complain and spoke of Alexander Hamilton's name. It was lame, so let's get down to the good part.
We were sitting around relaxing all cool, talking about how dumb it is to duel, when some natives and Tories that were up to no good started making trouble in the neighborhood.
They came rushing up to the house without a care. They yelled, "We want a word with Mr. Schuyler or Rennselaer."
We knew they were armed, so when they came near, we ran upstairs avoiding the brigadier.
Angelica!
Pregnant as all get out.
Eliza!
Pregnant as well, no doubt.
And Peggy!
The Schuyler sisters! Run!
We ran to Daddy's office and closed the door behind us. The Tories and natives were thrashing and crashing and bashing everything in the house. We hoped to ride it out, but then a cry rang out, and we knew that in our route we had left our baby sister just lying about.
Aww, shit! It was a dangerous situation our baby sister's facing, and I wanted to save her, but I just couldn't brave the thought of losing my life, my only weapon, a knife. I wasn't ready to fill a grave.
We were all standing there, seeing each other's blank stares, as we heard Catherine's cries get stifled, gasping for air. Then we heard a man's voice scream, "I know you're up there!" I told myself, don't be scared. Not sure what got into me, so scared I could hardly see. Although ultimately, Catherine depended on me, so I womaned up and I ran down to the pierced screaming, crying sound, and stood up to those hoodlums, primed and ready just to take them down.
Hey, you thought you pegged Miss Peggy Schuyler as a throwaway name, but maybe now we'll hear you say Peggy Schuyler should have gone down in fame. Gone down in fame.
Down the banister faster than light, I ran straight into a native who straight gave me a fright. He said, "Where's Phillip Schuyler? Tell me, I'll spare your life." I thought for just a second and decided to lie. My father's already gone, he knew what was going down. He left to tell them all what's going on, inform the whole town. You plan on breaking in here, representing the crown? So you best believe in for believing you might get out of here in one piece. Peace.
Hey, you thought you pegged Miss Peggy Schuyler as a throwaway name, but maybe now we'll hear you say Peggy Schuyler should have gone down in fame. Gone down in
And just like Peggy
fame.
started leaving, retreating, receding, so she proceeded to the sitting room where crying Catherine lay. She took a moment to thank God she's okay, then she went and made her way back up the stairs.
She thought they all were gone. It turned out she was wrong. Right by her eye was by a hatchet thrown by some guy trying to end her life, so terrified she would die. Catherine she clutched to her side and hastened up her stride. She made it up to the top, and at the top of her lungs cried,
I'm not just in Peggy, maybe now you'll see how even brave women get left out of history. I saved my sister from danger with nary a twitch. Someone say a game changer, that I'm a bad
Hey, you thought you pegged Miss Peggy Schuyler as a throwaway name, but maybe now we'll hear you say Peggy Schuyler should have gone down in fame.
bad.
Gone down in
So say what you
fame.
want about the not-so-famous Schuyler sister, but without her, Catherine would have died and everyone would miss her. Sacrificed to the scum that came and seemed so pissed to be dissed by a woman who deserved to be kissed. And kissed her I did.
What?
A few years later we wed. We bed, and shortly after that we had our first kid.
Damn.
We did things differently back then, okay? It might not be the same as it is today.
And while marrying your cousin might not seem right, it's still a better love story than Twilight.
Phillip.
Well, it's true.
I was a side note in our history, and if you look me up on Google, you'll struggle to find me. Women like me were unfortunately defined by men, most famous of all, Alexander Hamilton. We talked of many things, and in his letters we confide. He'd tell me all about the Constitution that he tried to defend with all his might, with his heart and his pride. He was the only one there when I died.
As all stories go, this one comes to an end. Much too soon for my very best friend. I often left on business trips, and I'm afraid I was not at home Peggy's very last day. She was stubborn in her sickness, telling me she'd just get past it, but instead I'd be picking out her casket. At least in her very last moment she'd find a better friend with which to leave this world behind. Oh,
Peggy, how are you?
Steven, is that you?
No, it's Alex. Remember, I'm staying here with you.
That's right. I told him not to come, to leave me behind.
You should really rest, clear your mind. Oh, just rest and clear your mind.
He told me once as children to leave it all behind.
Just rest, my dear, relax.
He stood up for me as children. He stood up for
Find
me,
some
always
peace
on
of
my
mind.
mind. Eliza, Angelica, he stood up for me.
I think with rest you'll find you'll feel better, my dear.
Leave it all behind. What could she mean? Certainly she would want me there if things weren't fine. What if they're not fine? What if she's not fine? I must go to her.
Peggy, stay with me. You're gonna be just
Please,
fine.
Alex, I'm dying. I won't be just fine. It's fine. Tell my dear Steven he was on my mind.
Peggy,
Promise me.
fine.
Alexander, how is she?
She's gone, Stephen.
What? I knew I should have come sooner. There was so much on my mind.
I'll leave you alone, Stephen. I think you'll find solace in the fact you were the last thing on her mind. I must take my leave now. I don't mean to run. There are just a million things I haven't done.
Leave it behind, and in a new friend you'll find someone who's there for you and can care for you all of the time. All of the time. Not this time. Not this time. I'm sorry, Peggy.
On Saturday, Peggy took leave of her sufferings and friends. I trust to find repose and happiness in a better country. Viewing all that she had endured for so long a time, I could not but feel a relief in the termination of the scene. She was sensible to the last, and resigned to the important change. All is as well as it can be, except for the dreadful ceremonies which custom seems to have imposed as indispensable, and which at every instant open anew the closing wounds of bleeding hearts. Tomorrow the funeral takes place. Adieu, my sweet angel. Remember the duty of Christian resignation. Ever yours, Alexander.
Hey, you thought you picked Miss Peggy Schuyler as a throwaway name, but maybe now we'll hear you say Peggy Schuyler should have gone down in fame. Hey,
Don't leave me behind. Don't forget my name. I'm Peggy Schuyler.
but maybe
Phillip,
Eliza,
Steven,
and Peggy.